reaching more and more screens around the world every week. On stage, so much more than entertainment.
Patricia Mesquino is a contributing writer at Billboard magazine. She can be considered Jamaica and the Caribbean's ambassador to Billboard, as most of her writings are about the music and culture of the region. We spoke to her last week right here on stage about a number of controversial issues surrounding reggae music and the 122-year-old Billboard publication. Pat, so good to have you.
Pleasure to be here, Winfred. Thank you.
So good. I mean, we've seen yours is a face that many Jamaicans will recognize, especially those who go to entertainment events across Jamaica and the region. So which do you prefer to be called? Jamaica and the Caribbean's ambassador to Billboard, or Billboard's ambassador to the Caribbean?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I guess I think the way you first phrased it was kind of nice. I think I'll go with that.
You're truly Caribbean now. All right. Okay. Well, all right. So let's explain your work at Billboard for us.
Yeah. I've been writing with Billboard on and off for a little more than 10 years. You know, I'm a contributing writer. It's a long-standing freelance writer, like specializing in reggae, other Caribbean as well, but reggae and dancehall far dominate the other Caribbean genres. That I have done some pieces on soca, calypso, steel pan, but the reggae and dancehall coverage far outweighs anything I've done in those genres.
All right, and that brings me to the latest controversy as it relates to reggae, as it relates to dancehall.
Yes.
Because there's a declaration by Billboard that the king of dancehall is Sean Paul.
Yes.
And that is causing quite a stir in the Jamaican space.
Yes, as I've been hearing pretty much everywhere.
How do they reach that conclusion?
Well, this was an article that a writer put out as part of looking at the success that Drake and Rihanna are having with the song Rihanna
yes.
and Drake, I should say. And, you know, very much a dancehall rhythm.
Track, yes.
But it's been called, a writer at another publication mistakenly referred to it as tropical house, which I know is another touchstone
right,
issue.
It's one of the
yes. Right, but so this writer was just making a point about it's very much a dancehall track, but in her wider context, I believe it was a female writer, in her wider context, she made a point that the king of dancehall being based on sales of the music, not on influence, not on popularity here in Jamaica, but just looking at sales according to SoundScan, according to the Billboard chart. Okay. And that would be Sean Paul, just from that perspective.
Well, yes, absolutely. That's what I thought. Yeah. But they need to clarify these statements when they make.
Right, exactly.
Because there's another side to the argument. Because when it comes to influence and popularity in this space, in Jamaica and the diaspora, Jamaican diaspora, and they may even put in the Caribbean, there may be a different story. That may be a different story.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt Sean Paul is the biggest selling dancehall artist ever in terms of actual record sales.
Right.
Do they understand the backlash? Billboard?
Yes, in fact, like I know there was even bigger backlash about Joss Stone topping the...
Bigger than this one? It's bigger than this?
I think so, because it seemed like that went on. And that was right around Christmas time, and it just like the New Year came in and people were still like about Joss Stone topping the charts. And
it's about numbers.
Yes. It's
most of these things will
purely
be
based on numbers. It's nothing about artist creativity or anyone's perception as an album being the best or better than the other 9 or whatever. It is purely based on numbers. And Joss Stone, you know, is a pop artist who has sold millions of records versus everybody else on that chart, other than Bob Marley, everybody else who has just sold thousands of records. So for her, selling 29,000 copies, which was the biggest selling reggae album for 2015, that's like a drop in the bucket compared to some of her previous albums that have sold millions and millions of copies.
Is it a global approach, market per market? The US as one market, for example, Europe, the UK as a separate market. How do they?
For the particular, the Billboard reggae album chart, that is US data. That is US
Strictly
sales.
US.
Yeah.
So Just Stone, for example, would have had to release her records in the US to get that declaration, right?
Right, exactly, which she most certainly did, and her, her company released it there, as they released it in other territories. I think it sold pretty well in her own UK as well. But some artists are just not plugged into the whole SoundScan system and the whole technology of how it works. It's very basic, and I mean, if you go on website, they could very much tell you. Nielsen, gives you a lot of information. There's also phone numbers to call should you not be able to navigate through everything or have a specific question that you don't see. I know they're very helpful because there is a lot of there can be a lot of misunderstanding, not just artists coming from here, but across the board about how it works, how your sales are registered, how to register an album in the first place. So sometimes I think a lot of artists are missing out on potential sales being recorded because their albums are not registered.
So when this declaration then, that Sean Paul is the dancehall king, would be based on sales just in the US, or would it considered other places in the world?
For that, it was considered just US sales, because back in, Sean Paul's had some very successful albums. Back as recent as 2009, he was the biggest selling artist in reggae for that year. And for the 2000s, the decade of the 00s, he was Billboard's best selling reggae artist of the decade. So he sold, he moved several million albums during that time.
Patricia, what a pleasure it is to have you right here on stage and to explain so much for us.
My honor to be
Thank
here.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Stay with us. Still to come right here on stage.
Just wanna lose it now.
The Caribbean may be on the verge of another international breakout star. Anthony B breaks a 6-year drought in terms of performance in Jamaica.
You're my everything.
And later, Nesbeth, first one-on-one since historic performance at Jamaica House and the passing of his beloved wife. All coming up.
Me a take plane like JUTC. When you see me, it's on TV. Shows after shows after shows after shows.
Hi, thanks for watching our video. Hope you have enjoyed it. Please subscribe to our channel by clicking right here and enjoy so much more where that came from. What are some of the things in your head?
Vibes.
Vibes.
Yes.
Vibes place.
Vibes, yeah.
Lots of music
Yes.
and lots of excitement
Yes.
in
Just
in
vibes,
Jamaica.
like good vibes on
Good
the whole,
vibe.
yeah.